265 popes had come before him, but his was a papacy of firsts. The first pope from the Americas, the first pope from the Southern Hemisphere, the first Jesuit in the role. Born in Buenos Aires in 1936, Jorge Mario Bergoglio was the son of Italian migrants who escaped fascist Italy. His father worked on the railways. He was a born fighter. As a child, an infection meant part of his lung had to be removed. Jorge graduated as a chemical technician. His first jobs were as a janitor and a bar bouncer before choosing the path to the priesthood. He was ordained in 1969. He became Archbishop of Buenos Aires. And in 2001, he was made a cardinal by Pope John Paul II. He held several key administrative positions before, in 2013, at the age of 76, his fellow cardinals elected him leader of the world's 1.3 billion Catholics. Taking the name Francis, the patron saint of animals and helper of the poor.
Buonasera.
He set the tone early. On the night he was elected, he passed up a ride in the papal limousine and travelled on a bus back to his hotel and chose to stay in a simple apartment, passing up the much larger official residence, saying, "I can't live here, I would die. I need people." Pope Francis shunned the lavish regalia of his predecessors and preferred the common touch.
I think a lot of people that was very far away from the church returned to the church because this man can speak in a very simple way to everybody.
His mission was to transform the long-standing conservative image of the Catholic Church. He spoke out for society's most marginalised and called for urgent action on climate change. In 2016, he gave priests the power to forgive women who undergo abortions. He was hell-bent on rooting out corruption in the Vatican's finances and dealing with the horrific legacy of child sex abuse within the Church. And he took his message around the world. A strong advocate for interfaith discussions, he visited more than 60 countries. His travels documented in an award-winning production. The pandemic couldn't stop him. War, the only barrier, leaving him to pray for the victims of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and it brought him to tears. Pope Francis gained a reputation for being approachable and down to earth, often described as the people's pope, the pope of the 99%.
People were very struck by his concern for others. I think that was there from the very, very beginning. It's actually the way he's living now as Pope isn't so different from how he used to live as Cardinal Archbishop of Buenos Aires. But that's Pope Francis. He is above all a pastor.
Time named him Person of the Year in 2013, one of many magazine covers he made. As he joined the world of Twitter, he became a social media star with more than 18 million followers, and he became an Instagram influencer. But he had enemies within the Church, his critics saying he strayed too far from the Catholic doctrine. In turn, he complained that traditionalist Catholics were gagging the Church's modernising reforms. He and his predecessor represented different sides of the theological struggle. But when Pope Emeritus Benedict died, Francis presided over his funeral and said he'd seen him as a friend and a guide. Only weeks later, he gave the blessing for George Pell, even as it was revealed the cardinal he called his right-hand man in the Vatican was in private one of his fiercest critics. He suffered ill health much of his time in Rome. Back and knee issues often left him struggling. In 2021, he needed bowel surgery. A bout of pneumonia had him in hospital again in 2023. Despite resignation rumours, he vowed to carry on as Pope as long as he could, until he could fight on no more. Pope Francis taken to hospital with bronchitis in early February before the Vatican revealed he had pneumonia once again. His final week spent appointing sympathisers to key posts. Many of the cardinals chosen by him will now form the electors for his successor, hoping to ensure his legacy, a progressive tinted papacy, continues. Brett McLeod, 9 News.